Hello and welcome back to Football Kentron, the only English language podcast dedicated to Armenian football. I'm your host Adam, and I'm joined here by my BFFs, Armen and Challenge. How are you boys doing?
Wow, new intro.
Upset.
Upset? Why are you upset? It's been a few days.
We got
We have a
slapped in
lot
the
to
face.
analyze, Adam.
Yeah, we do.
We have a lot to analyze.
Well, the Armenian National Team wrapped up its first camp of the year and left us with a lot to talk about, a lot of impressions, a lot of do's and don'ts, and a lot of concerns. But first, we have a lot of other things to get through, and we will start domestically as usual in the Armenian Premier League. Noah, under their new coach, played the game that was postponed versus Alashkert, and Noah won 1-0. Sorry, wow, I had like a little brain spasm. Musa
What was that?
I don't know. Musa Khanian starts again
I thought my internet, something happened.
after injury, and Kardashian was back in the starting 11 as well. I actually watched the highlights of this game, and the goal that was scored by Noah, the only goal, had a great cross from Jordi Ararat, like a top class cross with his right foot from the wing. And I'm just, man, like every time he does that for Noah, I'm like, man, he's such a good player. And then every time when he, for the national team, he just struggles to like move forward. But anyway, we'll get into that. That's a later discussion. The current standings in the Armenian Premier League remain unchanged as of now. Ararat Armenia are still top of the league with 53 points, with Punic in second place, right behind them in 51 points. And Ararat Yerevan rounding out the European top three with 38 points. Alashkert is in fourth place with 31 points and have 2 games in hand over Ararat Yerevan and are slowly climbing towards that way, unfortunately. And Urardu are behind them on 25 points. Bekma are still bottom with 10 points, 4 points behind Noravank and 6 points behind FC Van. Speaking of Van and Noravank, gentlemen, we had the VBET Armenian Cup semifinals this past weekend. Chadens, why don't you tell us what happened between Noravank and Ararat Yerevan in the first semifinal?
So this was yesterday, as of this recording. Ararat Yerevan didn't go through. Noravank beat them with a 2-1 score. Ararat's steady decline continues as they lose to a 10-man Noravank side that has only 1 win in their last 5 matches. This is what I was gonna say last week as well, that the cup is unexpected, and the fact that there's that European spot for it, the lower teams getting it is actually something beneficial. The scorers were Rudoselsky and Bashilov for Noravank and Uegi for Ararat Yerevan. So their path to the final has been 1-0 versus Chirac, 2-1 as well, and versus Ararat Armenia with a 2-1 win, basically.
Yeah, so Noravank, the surprise package of the cup this year, because they're currently sitting second to bottom on the league with 14 points. They got a red card early in this game, and they still somehow came back to win. This match had a lot of set pieces.
Cinderella story?
I wouldn't call it that because they're not pretty.
Right.
They don't play attractive football, like at all. I mean, they play very gritty, set piece, physical. That's their style.
And they got it.
But like you said, Sean, in stats, the cup, in the cup, it doesn't need to be pretty. You just need to win. So, and it's easier to do that in a one-off game versus every week in a league, right?
And it's good that they're going to go to European spot, like I said. However, if they don't do the build-up to that in the summer and they struggle in Europe, then honestly, we're not really going to get a lot of coefficiency points in the UEFA. So
exactly, and those are really important. And it's a good thing you mentioned that, Chance, because now that Ararat Yerevan is out of the cup, what would have been if Ararat was to win the cup, fourth place in the league would be the place that would get the European spot because they're currently in the top three. But now all of the remaining two teams are outside of the top three. So now that fourth place isn't going to get the cup spot. The winner of the cup final is going to get that Conference League first round qualifier spot.
And the funny thing is, by looking at it, we didn't want that fourth.
Yeah. Fourth place was Alashka.
And we already know what they would do with the European spot. And let me tell you, folks, it don't work out. So.
Well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves because there is a second semifinal that we need to discuss. Armen, Urartu versus Van. It just wrapped up actually right before we started pressing record. What happened in that match?
Well, you were talking about not being pretty when it comes to cup ties. Well, luckily for us and everyone at Football Kentron, Urartu is looking pretty when they play and is getting results. They beat Van no less than 3-0. It was a huge, dominant win, and it was Jogo Bonito all around. I mean, Urartu philosophy in full motion, baby. I'm so psyched about this game and about Urartu making things work. Urartu, as I said, they're beginning to show signs of improvement, and goals came in the second half mostly, but man, it was a whole game for Urartu. It was a stellar performance from Artur Miranyan, their vice captain, and of course the team went with him, led by Captain Hagop Hagopian, about whom Adam was mentioning the versatility of Hagops. There's a lot to analyze on Hagop because he was a very complex player. I like him very much. And he had a great spell at the national team in 2020, but hopefully he works on his physique because that's what he needs to improve to be back on national team schemes. Arman Ghazarian, Sergei Mkharchan, Narek Ghazarian, Khariton Ayvazian. There's so many new young players from Urartu Academy promoted to their first team, and they're starting, and they're winning, and they're what you want to see, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's why we're such a big proponent of Urartu, is because they are they're a project, and they're a project that I think prioritizes the development of domestic talent.
They definitely do.
They're not Van and Noravank, who are just buy every foreigner from every fifth or sixth division in Romania and I don't know what other random country. They are building an academy. They have a good academy, but now they're finally starting to show the fruits of their labor. I think it's very. If you take a look at who played in this game for Urartu and you take a look at their team, it's a bunch of 20-year-old kids. I mean, these are
most of these kids. 5 days ago, as I was telling you guys, 5 days ago, they were playing Serbia under 21, and we'll talk about that game, but playing that game, and 5 days later, winning and playing this game like the way they did. It was a remarkable and memorable week for these kids, which will leave a mark on them, I think.
Easily, for sure, easily.
So I think it was a really, really good performance, especially in the second half. It was really nice to see Giro Margarian back on the pitch playing at the club level. He came in for Hagop Hagopian, and I was kind of like, at first I was a little confused by the substitution, but then I realized Hagopian was playing left back the whole game, and I was like, you know what, like for like switch, except I think Margarian is, in my opinion, a better left back. But they bring different skill sets. I mean,
exactly. And how cool is it that you take a captain like Hagop Hagopian out and you bring someone like Girard Margarian in? It's like in the pound for pound, Urartu is stacked, you know?
Yeah, and in terms of, just watching Margarian play on the left side, you saw his quality in his passing is a very big step above everyone else on that field. It's very clear that he is like he's the odd one out, I would say, in this team, because he's the one that's clearly too good to be playing in this league. But anyway,
Definitely.
great.
He's like easily with a top 15, top 10 league level. Easily.
If it wasn't such a bad thing to go to Russia right now, he could easily go play in a top 5 Russian club and very much fit it.
The FFA should pull strings and get him into Central or Western Europe ASAP. Like,
and they might.
Even Ukraine pre-war was a bad move for him.
Yeah, he could have done better. But anyway, he's back now, and Urartu are in the final. Their path to the final,
and we know where our hopes lie when it comes to the cup now.
Yeah, Urartu had a bye in the first round. They defeated Alaşkert 2-0, and then now they defeated Van 3-0 to get to the final. So both of these teams, Urartu and Noravank, have scored 5 goals in their path to the final, but Urartu has actually not conceded a goal yet in the cup, while Noravank has conceded twice. The date of the final is not yet set, and we will bring that to you guys, obviously, and I think it's a game that everyone should watch. And it's going to be probably a very exciting and a high-scoring game, I would think. But we will probably preview that in a separate episode before that comes out. But I think that match is going to be sometime in May, if I'm not mistaken. Moving on to the UEFA U19 Elite Round. Armenia participated in the second time ever at the highest level of the competition in the world after surviving their qualifying group. The other time was in 2019 when Armenia actually hosted the U19 Euros, and that was actually the first time Armenia had qualified for a competitive tournament. Armen and Charents, boys, we knew coming into this elite round, being in a group with Portugal, England, and Ireland, that we were going to be out of our depth. And we said that as long as they take a good learning experience out of this, it's worth it, regardless of the results. Well, we know the results now, and they were taught a lesson. Armenia lost 4-0 in all 3 of the matches, against Portugal, against England, and against Ireland.
Consistent.
At least they're consistent, yeah, in that regards. But a little side note here:
the nature of the games was different. So.
And the U19s were arguably missing their 2 best players in Stiopa Mkhrtyan and Artur Seropian, who were very crucial in making the elite round, but were actually playing for the senior side at the time. Armen, you got to do the most analysis in the under-19 realm. What do you make of their performance in the elite round?
As I said, I think results are not. I mean, every game is decided with results, but they're not all that is to a game and to a project, which is a U19. As you said, these kids were missing their 2 field leaders in Stiopa Mkhrtyan in defense and Artur Seropian in offense, which we will talk there about their individual performances with the national team at the end of this show. But they were crucial for the previous qualifying round. Armenia is a good side. I think they play good. And as I said, if you look at their debut against Portugal, they were doing okay for the first half. They kind of lost track of the game right before halftime in a very Armenian way, in very Armenian nature, and they conceded twice over a span of 5 minutes. It's a very common Armenian mistake when it comes to football psychology and mindset, but these kids are young and they will work on that, I believe. Second game was against the group favorites and the hosts in England, which dominated the game. It was very similar to the game against Norway for the senior national team, but half the goals conceded for us. And arguably, there really was no analysis to be made there. The third game, I would say, went slightly worse than expected. I did expect Armenia to be competitive in that game, and they were, but they didn't get the result we wanted. They were 2-0 down by the end of the game. So Armenia tried to push forward and then get a result, maybe get a goal, 2-1 or something. So they left a lot of empty spaces for counters. Ireland capitalized because this is a late round, and Armenia conceded twice again over 5 minutes. And the result is not a description of the game. There's some stuff to look forward to. It was a invaluable experience for the kids, and looking at the results, if now we are to look at the results, actually, there were pretty much no different than the results when we played Elite Round 3 years ago, which were 4-0, 4-0, and 4-1.
Yeah,
So
the only difference was that Elite Round they were able to score 1 goal, or rather
yeah,
in the
but
tournament group stage.
they had a full squad.
Yeah, of course. So
Actually, and if you think about it, this Armenian U19 could have had as well Sergei Gorchkanyan from Rostov, but for some reason he didn't join.
yeah, he was supposed to join the under-21s, and
He
didn't do
join that
either.
either.
He honestly might have been injured, and we just don't know because he's a youth
he
player.
played the day for Rostov Academy. I don't think he even left Rostov.
Yeah, he probably didn't. It's fine, whatever. Moving on to the Armenia under-21 as they continue their UEFA U21 Euro qualifications. Armenia went to Serbia and had a 2-0 loss where both goals came within 5 minutes before halftime. I think this is similarly to what you said, Armen. What we have consistently across the board in our youth national teams is
always
a lapse in concentration in the last 5 minutes of each half, and that leads to defeat. A similar thing happened the first time Armenia played Serbia.
U21, yeah.
It was the U21. It was the same thing. Armenia were competitive, crazy, had a disallowed goal. We could have gotten out of there with a draw or even a 2-1 win, and then the boys in the last 5 minutes just completely collapsed, and Serbia just banged in the goals, and that just shows the difference in quality between a country like Serbia and Armenia, and that's just something that mentality and physical fitness is something that we have previously discussed, like nutrition, training regimen, fitness regimen. It's something somewhere that Armenia is working on, but you could see a very stark contrast against these other countries.
There's a demand as well of the teams playing. So if like a lot of the youth isn't playing a lot of games or they don't have competitions going on, then they lack fitness. That's how it is.
And on the other, there's two edges to this under-21 camp, or this qualifying as a whole. One side is this fitness issue that's been very consistently there. The other side has been, in my opinion, poor tactical approach by Rafael Nazarian, the manager. He's playing with a 5 at the back consistently for Bekma and for the under-21, and it's stifling the creativity of his creative players. You have Mirzoyan, you have Shahoyan, you have a now injured Nada Grigoryan, who are having to pick the ball up deep and try to make magic happen every time to score a goal, and that's not a winning formula.
Could be, but then again, I think the mentality thing and the losing focus within key moments of the game is way more harmful currently. We need to solve that first and foremost, because it's way bigger of an issue than a tactical approach. But I do agree, it's there. The tactical problems are there too. But as you mentioned earlier, nutrition and mentality are way bigger problems.
Yeah, for sure. And on the bright side, though, a slew of Football Kentron future stars were playing for the under-21s, including Eric Simonian, Mikhail Mirzoyan, Jirai Shagoyan, who were in the starting 11, along with Arman Nersesyan in goal. Yarjani Kubasaryan, who plays in the German fourth tier, was in defense. And this, slate of Urartu youngsters that we were just talking about a few minutes ago. Arman Hovanesyan and Darren Iskandarian, also Football Kentron Future Stars players, played off the bench after halftime, with Urartu star Narek Agazarian incomprehensibly saved for the second half as well. I like that the word used there, Arman. Anthony Kazarian, who plays in the Spanish second tier, and Artyom Gurjan of Bekma, who's a former Lokomotiv Academy star defender, were unused substitutions. I don't know why, but they just were. Armenia under-21 wraps up the season.
Is there.
Yeah, the talent's, this is what I'm saying. Like, the talent is there. You need a mentality fix, and you need, in my opinion, a different tactical approach. This is the most, in my opinion, this is the largest depth of talent pool Armenia's under-21 has ever had, yet the results are still the same. So, I don't know. They need to figure that one out. Armenia under-21 wraps up the season in June when they visit North Macedonia, a place we absolutely hate at this point, and then host France. So that's it for the youth national teams, and let's take a look at Armenian players abroad. Let's start in Belgium. Chadens, we have one guy there right now. How's he doing?
Yeah, the notable absentee of Sarkis Adamyan. He's back from his injury. He played 30 minutes off the bench in a good, solid 3-1 win versus bottom of the table team Beerschot Antwerp.
Wow, good pronunciation.
Yeah, I'm usually good at that, but you never know which one's correct or wrong.
Yeah, more closer to home here in the USA. Also, another notable absentee from the national team, Lucas Zelayan, was awarded the MLS Player of the Month for March after scoring 4 goals and assisting 2 over 4 games played. He received an injury in the last few minutes of the last game the crew played before the international break, but he played a full match yesterday, and he is clearly well and fit. Chadens, your neck of the woods, Cyprus. What's going on there?
Yeah, a big victory yesterday. At the Armenian training, everyone was like going crazy how this actually happened. Anorthos is crushed. I'll actually say this word. Crushed Abuel 4-1. Hovannes Ampartsumian, after recovering from COVID, he played for 60 minutes. So he kept the clean sheet because the goal came in at the 90th minute. Anorthosi now is sitting third, and they're making it to the European playoffs. Plus, I don't know when this episode will come out, but on Wednesday, they play in the quarterfinals, the second leg, again against Aboel. So
it should come out right by the time they play. So if you're in the audience, make sure to find out how Apoel did. Anorthosis, against.
Yeah, currently Apollon, Limassol, and Aris are playing right now, and they're drawing 1-1. So as of now, with that score, Anorthosi is down in 4th place with 43 points, only 1 point behind Apoel and
really close,
and Aris. It's very close, and I think there's only one game left, Chadens, in the season?
1 or 2, I think 1 or 2.
I love the Cypriot League.
Oh, even better. Anorthosi play Apoel in the cup in a few days.
Yeah, that's the one I was referring to, because they play a few games. They played 3 or 4 times in the past 2 months or something. So
yeah, and then
we need more Armenians there. I mean, it's the sensible step for Armenian players out of the IPO.
I agree.
Yeah, so 2 games. And it's also them using it. It's kind of the same. It's a similar mentality to Armenia, really.
I don't know why they don't. Why they don't make the most of it.
Look at the top 2 teams in Cyprus qualify for Champions League. 3rd and 4th place qualify for Europa Conference League.
Okay, never
I mean,
mind. Then that's good.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look, bro, FFA, if you're listening to us, Urartu, anyone, anyone listening to us, here's how it is. Cyprus is a good league. It's better than the APL, but not that much better. So the leap from the APL to Cyprus for an Armenian player that is a little too good for the APL would be sensible, would make sense. Hey, that's first and foremost. Second, as Yuaram said, Cypriot leagues, the Cypriot teams play European Cups on a yearly basis. It's like at least one it's gonna make group stages, and you know this.
mhm.
So there's exposition there, there's the exposure, there's attention for
And,
Armenian players to showcase their talents.
and
Geopolitically, it makes sense. Cyprus is like the closest country to Armenia when it comes to geopolitics. There is no reason why there shouldn't be more Armenians there.
yeah,
Mr.
it's
Sajif, write that down. Write that down.
It's very simple.
it doesn't
I mean,
it,
even there's a player even from Omonia who signed in Kansas City. Even
think about it. If you're
It's a good transition league too. Yeah.
whoever is going to make Champions League, whether it's Apollon or Apoel or Aris or Anatorsi, whichever one does it, or even whoever, anyone in these top four teams right now in Cyprus, if they sign, for example, Gia Margarian, that's a really good step for him.
Mhm.
You know, he's going to be playing Europe. That's where we
Yeah,
want to see a player of his
it's
caliber.
it's a win-win.
Yeah, it is. I don't know, man. Some of the stuff I just don't
It's a
understand.
win-win because our Armenian players for European markets are very cheap, and as you said, Ejir Markaryan is actually even too good for the Cypriot league too. But it's a little more demanding than the APL, so it's gonna be a win-win for everyone
yeah,
involved.
it
Look,
is.
it's clear that Cyprus benefited from the success of a single club. I mean, Apoel was making
Definitely.
Champions League for like 2 or 3 seasons straight, and that helped their coefficient dramatically, and it improved the entire league. Now, this is a similar thing that I'm hoping Adana Armenia or Punic do. You know, in the next season, I really am. I'm hoping that one of these two teams, who I feel are more than good enough to be playing in Europa League, make the actual Europa League, play well,
Mm.
raise Armenia's coefficient, so we could start competing with a in a league with a country like Cyprus, at least
Yeah,
in
and
terms of
if you go back
league.
in retrospect, if you look at the APL table, there's a team like Noah, which we mention often. They are class, like they're really good, even mm, conference league good,
Mhm.
and they're not gonna make Europe. I mean, it's almost guaranteed by now that they're not making Europe. The APL is like good if a team like Noah doesn't make Europe, you know?
Yeah. And actually, Chadin's linked this player right here. He's a Cypriot player, Marinos Tsionis, 20-year-old winger who just got acquired by Sporting Kansas City in the MLS from Omonia Nicosia. So clearly, there are scouts constantly looking at Cyprus. We're just throwing all these ideas
Yeah.
out there. Whether or not someone listens to us is a whole other story. Elsewhere in Spain, Armenian National Team captain Barazat Haroyan is recovering from arm surgery. He had a double fracture in his arm after a tackle in the Norway game.
Ouch.
And with less than 2 months until Nations League Division B, it remains unclear how long it will take Captain Vato to fully recover. We wish him a speedy recovery, and our fingers are crossed that he makes it in time. Now, with injuries, I did my
Tragic.
usual little Google searching, and apparently post-surgery recovery for arm fractures are between 6 to 12 weeks in time for healing, which means there is a 100% chance that Haroyan's club season is over, and
Yeah,
there
definitely.
is,
And it's probably moving out.
and he's probably moving out of there, and there is a good chance that he will miss the Nations League. There is 9 weeks until the match against Scotland. And for athletes, of course, athletes do recover quicker. So we think it's very likely that in 9 weeks he'll probably be back in training, but I don't know. It just
What about
remains.
luck of the Irish?
Yeah, and we're just going from we're like a freaking hospital ward over here because we're just moving from one injured player to another. Football Kentron future star Nada Grigorian is still injured. It's not looking good for him in terms of his loan move to Jagiellonia. But on the bright side, though, if Urartu do win the cup and he just returns to Urartu, he'll probably be helping them out in Europe. So, I mean, I guess that works out.
Silver lining, baby. Silver lining.
Speaking of silver linings, why don't you tell us about the nice silver lining that's going on in Finland?
Oh, that transition game, Adam, bravo.
I've been working on it.
Yeah, Football Kentron guest and buddy, but Felix Farian, Felix, is fully recovered finally from a lower back injury and is back on the team sheet right on time for the Finnish league, Veikkausliga or something like that, for the kickoff of the league. Of course, he has UEFA Europa League legend by now, champion and multi-champion Beto from Portugal starting over him, ahead of him. Thing is, that I think that's exactly a great opportunity for him, for Felix, to share locker rooms with basically who is by now a Portuguese legend and learn from him, of course. I think, Adam, you told me yesterday the result, we were talking about it, they were winning and conceded twice and then lost the game 2-0. Could it be? I mean, Beto conceding twice right before the final whistle could only benefit Felix's cause for HoFK. HoFK is actually going to be playing a lot this month, and I mean a lot. And then with Beto conceding twice right before the final whistle, one could say it's Felix's time to shine.
Well, I mean, yeah, Felix is actually the only HoFK goalkeeper so far this season that has not conceded a goal. So it's working in his favor. So I mean, I'm fairly confident. Just given that we know that he was, that he would have started had his back injury not had recurred. It gives me. I'm confident that Felix is going to get his opportunity very soon, and I'm double confident that he is going to take it. So it's going to be a waiting game. Like you said, HoFK are playing a lot. Beto clearly isn't doing that well. Their other goalkeeper they have is not that good, and they clearly favor Felix. So
yeah, in terms of class, he's definitely the fit to start. Like, he's set to be the starter.
Mm-hmm.
Thing is, if health works with him, hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah. Going on to Italy, retired national team old guy Henrik Mkhitaryan scored the lone goal in Roma's 1-0 win over Sampdoria. I'm calling it a win, but there's still a few seconds left in this match, so anything can realistically happen.
Sampdoria,
yeah.
Sampdoria, that's often linked to Armenian players. It seems like they need someone.
I wouldn't want someone going to Sampdoria. Right. Anyway, Roma.
I know Theo is a very staunch Sampdoria fan, actually.
Well, Theo's also an Olympique Marseille fan who are also linked to this player, but we'll get there later.
Someone.
All right. Roma are currently sitting in 5th place on the table, which is the only Europa League spot, on 54 points, 5 points behind a Juventus that is yet to play their 31st game. Roma is also, coincidentally, the only club that has an Armenian player still in European competition, as they will be playing Bodo Glimt in the Conference League quarterfinals. So we'll look out for Henrik over there. It's kind of important that they do, because if they do win, that means Henrik's going to be playing Europa League next season if he stays, which we don't know where he's going. But anyway. Moving on to the country that I don't like even more now, Russia.
Oh, wow.
I mean, look, I'm being honest. After a big fight that was made public in the Russian media between Armenian winger David Davidyan and club owner Tufan Sagadov, Both Davidan and Arshakorian, who is currently on loan at the Division 2 side Orenburg, who's top of the table, might be leaving the club over the next transfer window. Apparently, David has complained that he has been discriminated against on a racial basis, with Sadigov's family being of Azeri origin and primary influence in the Russian world, as they are among one of the shareholders of Gazprom, the Russian gas agency. This has led to Davidan being frozen out of the squad, despite, as we reported, him shining very brightly over the winter break friendly games and generally having good performances when he's on the pitch for them. We'll of course report on this as it continues to develop, but as I've said before, and I'll say it again, if you are Armenian and you are currently in Russia, just get out.
Oh man, I wouldn't have thought that something like this would have happened.
I'm not surprised. I mean, look at the place. The place is it's a very look. This might be my Western American lens, but I mean, it's a pretty
they're
corrupt
weird.
country. So
they're strange folk. I agree. Yeah.
I'm not putting anything past them. Elsewhere, Artur Galoyan had a brace versus FC Rotor, who played in the RPL not too long ago. And I don't know when this kid is just going to finally put on the national team shirt, but it can't come soon enough. And most importantly,
and Kevork Sarkisian with him.
Yeah,
both of them are young and awesome. They need to get the fuck out.
Young Armenian players. And speaking of young Armenian players in Russia, the fight for Eduard Spertsian continues. Giants from all over Western Europe have been reportedly pushing for who is undoubtedly Armenia's gem. There are a lot of clubs that have now since been named to be interested in our young talisman. I'm going to read off some of the names now. In France, we have Olympique de Marseille, Saint-Etienne, and Brest, where, of course, Michel Derzakarian is the manager. In Italy, it is reported that Atalanta and Sampdoria are interested. In Spain, it is reported that Valencia is one of the interested clubs, Cologne in Germany, Bale in Switzerland, and Anderlecht in Belgium.
Wait. Bale in French is basically Basel. Basel.
Oh, that's huge.
Exactly. So yeah, that name is very important. Some people wouldn't like him going to Anderlecht or Basel. But as I usually say, those two clubs are academy specialists and specialists when it comes to under 23 players, which Edo is as of now. So if he moves there, he has 2 years of working with some of the best specialists when it comes to youth development in football in the whole world.
Yeah.
So that gives him like 2 years, and then it's on to a world giant. Like no scales, no middle point.
I mean,
it would be a great move too.
Charles, what are your thoughts?
Well, personally, I believe that it's better for him to pick the system that fits him and needs him the most. So if they're looking for his type of player, it's better to go to that team. Doesn't matter what prestige it is, because any of these listed teams is a proper team. Whatever makes his surroundings good for him, it will help him further develop. And when he further develops, that's when he will do his best and go to a more prestigious club. Because if he directly goes to a higher prestigious club,
exactly,
he might get all those subs, becoming just a sub, making small impact. There's a manager who believes that, okay, I've got a cheap wage, let's say. I don't know. There's many things to football. So simply put, that's what I believe.
I agree. I would outright cross the, if I were him, of course, and his dad was his agent, I would downright cross out of the list the possibility of going to Marseille, to Valencia, and Atalanta, which are the 3 highest profile clubs right now. Other than those clubs, the others, the 8th top-notch clubs would make the most of him.
That's true. I mean, if we're looking at the French league, if we're looking at the French clubs, where is a league that I think he would do fantastic at. Unless he's guaranteed to play time, I wouldn't sign for Marseille. I mean, looking at who they have, it's looking like is going to be a direct successor to Dimitri Payet, who's currently 35 years old. If that's the route that Marseille are planning on going, of course, building a team around
makes sense.
but
somewhat.
But I don't think
Marseille's
that's likely.
too big. Yeah,
It's not likely.
Marseille's a whole world. You know, those clubs are very controversial. If you don't perform well, we have Balekan as a prime example of what happens.
Exactly. Elsewhere, though, we have Brest, who is managed by Armenian Michel de Zakarian, who I think is a place that would fit him very well. However, I do think it would be more beneficial to a player like Edo to go to a club in a slightly lower league that has more stature, like Anderlecht, like Basel. Because if you're playing consistently for a mid-table French club, that's great, that's good. But if you're a player of his caliber, it's better for you to play at an Anderlecht or at Basel and be playing in European competition.
Yeah, and as I said, those two clubs, their development programs, they feed the best clubs in the world. Like he would jump ahead of the clubs like Sampdoria, Saint-Étienne, Brest, and Cologne.
Exactly.
Like those clubs currently interested in him, he would jump over them.
Yeah, and it's like we said, we're just going to monitor it. It's still very early on. We don't know where he's going to go, but we'll see. And speaking of seeing, we're going to be moving on to our final segment in today's episode, and what's probably going to be a bulk of this episode is Armenia National Team's friendly camp over this past week, which was a home game against Montenegro and away to Norway. There is a lot to discuss here. There's a lot to dissect, and I think we need to be a little organized on how we approach this topic, or else we're just going to be
please.
Like our defense
crazy
against Norway.
Armen, let's first talk about the game against Montenegro. Walk us through the game plan a little bit.
More of the same, like that we have been seeing over the last semester, the second semester of 2021. I'm talking about. It's a game plan that I personally don't like, and I see it as the FFA and Caparros, in all of their wisdom and in all of their achievements together, they're kind of trying to impose something on us that I don't think fits us. I'm talking about an entirely ball-playing 4-4-2 formation, no defensive midfielder, and I go crazy about this because defense is a key aspect of the damn game. So you have ball players and creative players creating, of course, makes sense, but you have creative players in offense in an attack as strikers, and you have creative players in defense at the defensive mid. It's like, I don't know, man. It's like I was thinking about this analogy. It's like having a big business, and having lawyers like yourself, Aram. No offense.
I'm not, but thank you.
Bear with me. It's like having lawyers at the law department, which is what's called for, but having lawyers at the sales department as well, and having lawyers at other departments like numbers and marketing, hiring lawyers for marketing, lawyers all around.
I think. Okay, I get. Sorry to cut you off. I think I can make your analogy a little more accurate. It's like hiring a small law firm for a personal injury lawsuit against someone else, and then it's like hiring that same small law firm against
for something else,
a multi-billion-dollar corporation who's going to demolish you.
And it doesn't work like that. Yeah, Exactly.
Exactly.
It's trying to impose something. It's like the Bad Girls movie with Lindsay Lohan. You know, it's when Rachel McAdams said, "Don't try to make fetch happen. It's not gonna happen." Well, don't try to make playing with no defensive mid happen,
It's
because
like,
when you're bound to play UEFA Nations League B like we are, we're gonna get crushed
yeah. Here's
like we
another
did
analogy.
against Norway. I mean,
Here's another analogy. You know, like on those toy
go
sets,
for
right?
it.
You have
Yeah.
those toy building sets that you give kids with the little hammers and whatnot, and the little nails, the little plastic hammers and nails. It's like having that plastic hammer and hitting the plastic nail, right, into the thing. It works, right? That's what it's for. You have the plastic
Yeah.
hammer, you hit the plastic
Exactly.
nail, it's a toy. And now it's like getting that plastic hammer and trying to nail in an actual nail into the wall.
Yeah.
That's what they were trying
Yeah.
to do.
Or since you're talking about kids' toys, you have the one that has little pieces with a square, the triangle, and the circle. And you
Hmm.
put the square with the square. Good. It's where it fits. You take the square out and you put it in the triangle and you try to make it fit in the triangle. It doesn't fit. It
There
doesn't
you go.
fit. Joaquin.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's
Uh, and,
so.
and, and, and it's not like this is a new problem, you know? I literally, over the spaces we did last semester, remember the good times when we thought we had some hope. Uh, I was mentioning over and over again, going around it. Why don't we call up Garen Muradian and the sub? Like, why don't we call uh, defensive mids? And
It,
we didn't even call one
again,
aside from the
I
Lion.
don't know how worth it is for us to discuss this further, because we literally spent all of last episode looking at the roster and saying, why is there no defensive midfielders? And it's crazy because he literally just did not play them. It's like, it blows my mind. It's like you had one defensive midfielder, like, and you were getting absolutely obliterated, and he doesn't even bring him on. It's like, dude, like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
The one time, yeah, the one time the Lion Grigorian was fit, and he doesn't get on.
Not that I think he's good. Not that I think he's good enough to stop Norway. I
But
don't
he
think
would
he
like
is. But 9-0
have
would
like
have been
the
6-0
goal
if you had a
difference. Yeah,
defensive midfielder.
5-4. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, man, and it's not like we didn't warn everyone. Like we spent literally the whole last semester warning on our Twitter, on our social media accounts, on our spaces, over and over. Call it defensive mid. And what happened in September? We fucking drew to Iceland and Liechtenstein. Call a
Mhm.
defensive mid. In October,
Mhm.
I don't even remember who we played, but we got obliterated
One.
once. I think it was the draw against North Macedonia, pale, awful, ugly game in Skopje, and then we
The draw
lost.
away. No, was
No,
it the
we
loss
lost
to
the
Romania?
1-0 in
Yeah.
Bucharest.
Yeah.
Again, we played awful that time. I mean, Romania scored only once because they were not that much better than us. But if we played the way we knew we can play with the balanced team and a defensive mid organizing defense, the whole semester would have been different, and we would be the ones in the final four instead of Macedonia,
Hmm.
regardless that Macedonia didn't qualify for the World Cup. But they
Yeah.
made it they even beat Italy. Come on.
Yeah. So it's something that we've harped over for well over a year now. That and it's something that we've noted on several occasions during the Nations League campaign success, during the first three matches in World Cup qualifiers, and it's a little like puzzling to me that you have a player like Muradian, you have Hako Pakopian, who were crucial, I would say, in rotation
Hmm.
during our successful runs. And now that these players, I mean, especially Muradian, I think he's one that I really want to hone in on as a central midfielder,
Yeah,
who
he's
has a
the
very
first
good
option.
work rate.
He's our first string. He should be.
And he's arguably playing the best football of his career right now on the most
Definitely.
dominant team, one of the most dominant teams we've ever seen in Armenian football history, and he's not, and he's just not even getting called up anymore. It's like the lack of sense being made here is incredible. I mean, we have
and it's something. I want to highlight this. It's something that can be done. It's not like we're not good. It's not like we don't have good players. So okay, I understand. You do what you can. No, it can be done because it has been done. We have been consistently good for a year, I would say, even.
And it's not just people, and I don't want people to get the wrong impression that we're thinking playing a defensive midfielder was going to change the game completely. Because as you had mentioned, there are two aspects to a game. There's your personnel, and then there is your tactical approach. And against Montenegro,
the tactical approach was awful. Yeah.
Against Montenegro, I wouldn't say the tactical approach was awful. I would say it was okay.
It can work against Montenegro. It can work
against Ireland. It can work against Montenegro. It can work against Ireland. But
it can also backfire against those, by the way. I mean, not because it worked once, it doesn't mean that it's gonna work every time. Also, bear that in mind too.
But here's the thing. Like, I think one of the major points of contention that you had made was playing Spezia in central midfield, and
it's a waste.
I had mentioned that I think it was on like this was the Reddit live that we did, that I understand playing him at central midfield against a team like Montenegro.
Yeah.
To me, that makes sense because the amount of the issue with a lot of our central midfielders is that we have previously used is their passing isn't the best, and having one of our best passers, if not our best passer, being the link between defense and attack makes a difference. Having someone that is as composed on the ball as he is, and alongside Udo, who is also like one of the most composed players I think I've ever seen wear the national team jersey.
He's a great passer.
It makes sense.
That's the thing. He is the creative defensive mid, or central mid. That he should be the one. That's Udo's profile. Like, why do we have to have two Udos?
But again, against a team where you want the ball, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if we look at the second match, where you have these 7'2" Norwegian like behemoths, Goliath giants,
we're not gonna have the ball.
And you have a little Spezia who's scrawny trying to jump up and win a header against the guy that's 2 feet taller than him and getting bodied off the ball like he's a toddler by Erling Haaland, one of the best strikers in the world. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
You're wasting him there. That's when I think it's a waste.
You need someone to go for the legs. And in a smart way, not like we did. That's another big issue that I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here. But you need someone who's smart when it comes to tackling. A good tackler.
Well, okay. Well, we can actually discuss that right now. I think that's a good time to discuss the red card. It's not okay. I'm trying to find a way to. I'm trying to find the right way to explain this. So the red card,
right way.
It's very clear and it's very obvious that going down to 10 men in the 17th minute of a game, is never ever gonna be easy.
Yeah.
Now we have seen a lot of smaller nations. We have seen a lot of club teams go down to 10 men very early, lose games, get steamrolled. But they lose 5-0, 6-0. Now, that's acceptable. Going down to 10 men and losing 9-0, that's not acceptable. That's just not.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? I noticed like right off the bat, right after the kickoff, that we were just not there. I mean, first and foremost, the game plan sucks, and the game plan sucked. And it's gonna suck against teams like Ukraine and Scotland. So that's the first problem. But then there was a visible, clear, transparent, very savagely obvious lack of focus within the team. The way we went for the marks. It's like actually Norwegian media pointed it out constantly to COP, to us, to everyone within their own hubs, in forums. It's like they rightfully saw that Armenia kind of stepped onto the pitch with the simple intention of injuring the Norwegians. Not even just Holland. It's like Norwegian that we saw with the ball, Norwegian that we went to tackle from behind, dirty, like straight for the legs, not even with the intention of winning back the ball. And as I mentioned, we were violent. I have to agree with the Norwegian media. I mean, I don't want to. Caparros disagreed, but I don't agree with that. I mean, I think we were foul playing, and it
No,
doesn't suit
there
us.
was targeting.
It doesn't suit us.
There was targeting. It was very obvious. Players don't constantly go after a player's ankle like that without being told to do so. That's just
Exactly.
It doesn't happen.
I mean, and I don't understand why. You know, it was a friendly window, and we were supposed to, even if you want to impose a shitty, I'm sorry for the word, but even if you want to impose a shitty game plan with no defensive mid, you can still try to play within the rules and try to have some sort of tactical approach.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, it's the red card. I think just it threw everything out the window.
Happen.
It threw the whole thing out the window. It was like there was no point in even playing anymore.
And as I said, if it's not Arman, it would have been Horik literally in the next play after that one. Ref was feeling generous. He only booked by Damian, but we always gonna be down a man, if not two. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's just there were. I mean, I don't want to look too deeply into this result because there is a degree of being shell shocked that leads to these types of poor results. Because after the team concedes a certain number of goals and within a few minutes of each other, I think it was in the 30th to 40th minute, they conceded 4 goals or something.
Yeah.
When you concede that many goals in a short period of time, the players just shut off. They just don't.
Mm-hmm.
There's no you're not going to recover from that. And when you're also down a man and you have as weak of a mentality as our national team does, it's never going to end well. And that's why I don't want to look into it too deeply.
Yeah,
but my concern
just didn't make sense.
But my concern is if we go and get a red card against Ukraine or against Scotland, my fear is that it's going to be this whole PTSD situation, which is what happens to Yurchenko, and
it's going to be
the
worse.
whole team shuts down.
It's going to escalate. It's going to escalate when we're going to be there at the UEFA Nations League. There's going to be points on the line. There's going to be games on the line. There's going to be players on the line. Mm-hmm. If you get a red card, you miss a player, and you miss a player, you're -1 from the whole squad, and it affects everyone. It
literally happened last semester. An 11-man Armenia lost 5-0 against Macedonia.
Yeah, imagine if they were down to 10 men during that game. I mean,
it will go further.
It cannot happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, the 9 shouldn't have happened again, and we're saying the other 9 wasn't even again because the other one had at least 1 goal margin. This one is just horrible. So,
and I think that this took away from the opportunity of certain players to be able to showcase their abilities. For example, we have Harutyunyan, who is playing really well for Punic. Had a very small cameo against Montenegro. It played like 5 minutes and came on after 40 minutes, 30 minutes in this game against Norway after Bichakjian, Vardanyan, Spertian.
Yeah, when that whole infamous show happened.
Yeah, and he didn't get to showcase his abilities because the team was just being steamrolled left, right, and center. We have Stiopa Mukacyan.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Stiopa for a minute because he played
Sure.
really well against Montenegro. He got sent off, yes, but
He was amazing.
realistically, he played really good. And again,
He was amazing.
he
I mean,
was
both yellow cards were kind of unfair. It was amazing.
and then looking at this game against Norway, he was the only player that was able to clear the freaking ball. It was crazy. Like
His issue, sure, it was great to have him. We saw a lot of him, but it was the other. If we can move to that, I don't know if it's a separate, but it's a separate point. But it's my point. The fact that I hadn't noticed this for the audience, just so they know. I hadn't noticed that they could have been going to the elite round. This I disagree with it because, of course, I don't have experience and such, but I disagree with it because it's better for that player to be playing somewhere where he can get the most of it rather than somewhere where it's new and there's not a end result. The only end result is, oh, nice, we have a Stiopa Mergutsyan coming up in a few years or next year or whenever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. U19, if he was there, you guys can correct me on this, he was one of the players to get Armenia to the elite round.
Actually, him and Seropian.
See?
And it's even more
there
frustrating. Seropian was on the bench most of the time. It's like, I mean...
Yeah, Seropian, calling him was a pity.
It was stupid.
I mean, when it comes to Stiopa, I'm kind of, I have mixed feelings about the decision of him going to senior national team. I mean, from his point of view, I listened to his statements and the presser and everything, and I have to agree with Stiopa because he said the senior national team goes above everything else, and it's kind of he himself had a mixed feeling because he was the captain of the U19 and it's his team that he kind of feels a little bad for leaving behind. But on the other hand, there's the counter that senior national team is senior national team and there's literally no higher honor. So I have to agree with Stiopa. But calling him up, so from Cap's point of view, I don't disagree like you are, like entirely disagree, because I have more kind of like mixed feelings because there would have been pros and cons from Stiopa going to either elite round with the U19 or getting into the senior national team. There are pros and cons to both.
I think it's a good omen that he got to play 180 minutes and get that under his belt for the senior national team. I think that was
exactly. But it was a definite standout, like a clear standout for me.
But the issue was how
the best news from this entire friendly camp.
I agree, but the thing is, how much positivity can you expect a player like him at his age to get from playing 90 minutes in what is now historically the worst ever defeat of a national team of Armenian national team?
I mean, that's not how it's gonna go down in history. I mean,
well, you're saying there's gonna be a worse game?
No. I'm saying like what I'm saying is like that's not what is gonna be remembered about Stiopa's first national team camp. On the one hand, because we all know that it's going to be his debut with a clean sheet against Montenegro, and one of the best on the pitch, in my opinion, from our side. There's that from Stiopa's point of view, and then second, everyone else was playing at that game, and then in fact, you all know that I am mostly about watching individual players and assessing their skills and stuff. But this time, I don't think individual performances was the problem against Norway. I think there was a very clear, deeper problem that was the game plan, and Stiopa is nowhere nearly to be blamed for this. Neither is, by the way, Arman Hovhannisyan that got sent off. He's kind of being used as a scapegoat when
But he did. But you gotta admit though, his tackle was horrible.
It was awful. It was awful. But as I said,
that's an individual
shifting,
mistake. Yeah, that is an individual. It's stacked on top. You have a shitty game plan. You have awful tactics, and then on top of it, you go down to 10 men because of an individual mistake. That's a recipe for disaster.
I mean, to be fair with Arman, not to shift the blame off him, and it was kind of an individual mistake, and it was an awful tackle and everything. But when on the tackle, on that specific moment of the game, there was a 3-man mark on Holland, and neither of those 3 could take him down. And as you said, it was targeted. From the sidelines, the clear order was take him down, doesn't matter how, and take everyone else down as well. That was a clear order that we all saw, I agree. And I think that if it wasn't Arman, it was going to be Horik. If it wasn't Horik, it would have been someone else. I think it was destined to go this way for some reason because of the game plan. So yeah, I don't think Stjopa will remember this. That like the main takeaway for Stjopa is not going to be the Norway game. I can assure you this, especially knowing his mindset.
Now, do you think if you're
saying Stjopa is super ready?
If you're Kaparos, you have your center backs. You have 4 games that you're going to have to play in a span of 10 days in June. You have Haroyan, who is questionable. You have Andre Kalsir, who is injury prone. How likely do you think it is that Stjopa 1 gets called up and 2 plays?
Daron is coming.
You had to go there. I knew I was forgetting something. Man, we were so happy, but yeah. Now that Chadens mentions it, I don't know how likely it is that he will even be called up. If Vato doesn't make it, I think it's very likely, like 95% likely, that Stjopa will be the one chosen as a third CB.
Well, he's gonna have to call up 4. You're playing 4 games in 10 days. He's gonna call up 4.
U21 as well, but he's not gonna go there.
But yeah. But then again,
yeah, 4
regardless
slots,
or not,
well,
okay. First, I will quickly answer this one. Okay, sure. Vato, of course, if healthy. Andre Chalishir, of course, if healthy again. Third, against all of our wills and desires and wishes, of course, we know Daron is coming. Sadly, but he is. I think he's gonna recover in time for that. I don't know.
Do you think Stjopa becomes that 4th? That's the main question.
I would reckon he is.
Logically, he's not gonna get called up for the U21, so probably he's gonna come there.
Yeah, I mean, look,
he showed to be at even Andre Chalishir level. Like he showed to be at, in my opinion, very clearly UEFA top 15 league level. Super ready. I mean,
if you take a look at our,
I'm super surprised.
If you take a look at our schedule, and you see that our first game is away to Scotland, you reckon that's a game you want to see Haroyan and Chalishir play, right? You want your best duo there. A few days later, we are home to Republic of Ireland, which is arguably the most important game. Yeah. Those doubleheader against Ireland, that's the most important.
There you go. I don't know how I would risk saving Haroyan and Chalishir for Ireland and playing Haroyan and Stjopa against Scotland. Why? And I'm not even going to get into the bigger thing that I want to get into, the bigger point later on. Strictly when it comes to the defensive line, I would play in the kickoff, the first game against Scotland, Vato and Stjopa, because they're way bigger. And Scotland is a team that likes possession and that likes to attack. you need players to intimidate them. You need players to go aggressively but smart, the way Stjopa and Vato are. That's probably a better way to neutralize Scotland. Then you save Andre Çalışır. That is a very much smarter and kind of shorter style of CB that can intercept, that can run after a mark, that is super smart when it comes to positioning and super perceptive when it comes to build up from the back. You play Andre and Vato against Ireland. Vato being, of course, the most complete kind of CB we have.
And then you're saying against Ukraine, you're going to be the third match. You're going to be resting Horoyan.
Could be, yeah, and bring Stjopa back with Andre.
With Andre, and then too. Yeah, because he's going to have to rest. He's not. I don't think he can play for 90 minutes in 10 days.
No, definitely not. And now that defensive line being addressed, there's the bigger issue at hand, which is the game plan. You can't play UEFA Nations League B without a defensive mid. Yeah. And it doesn't get solved. Again, it doesn't get solved with one call-up. It doesn't get solved with one individual. You need the starter and the sub and the backup. You need a fit Grigorian if you are to consider him your first string, and you need the Gare Muradyan ready and fit and healthy for the jump, for the second half, or in case anything happens. And if Gare Muradyan is your first string, you need someone as a backup.
I think bottom line, we have been, our intuition and our instinct during the squad releases has been spot on. I mean, it's been a bullseye. We said, again, this squad more than good enough to beat Montenegro, not nearly good enough to beat Norway, and that's exactly what we saw.
And actually, if you think about it, we did defend with the ball against Montenegro the way we said it would be.
Exactly. So I think, again, we know what needs to be changed. We've had a thorough discussion about this. When the national team squad gets announced a couple weeks before the June 4th match, so sometime in mid-May, in about a month and a half, we'll get the squad. We will likely be able to tell right then and there whether or not we're getting relegated or not.
Yeah, and as I always say, as I insist, it can be done. It can be fixed because it has been done before. Do it again. It's simple. Look at what worked. Look at what didn't work. And do what worked.
That's up to the coaches now. I mean, we
the FFA.
We have 2 months until the game against Scotland. We have 2 months of clubs playing of our players playing at the club level. We have potential champions that we may see. We have 2 months for our players that are abroad to stay fit and healthy. And then we have 2 months to see what domestic-based players are going to stand out. And hopefully we see a better squad mid-May, whenever it gets announced. But I think that's going to be it for today's discussion. I don't know what more there is that we could possibly contribute at this point because unfortunately our hands are tied. We can't really do anything.
Just wishes to the ladies national team. They're going to be playing this week for the World Cup qualifiers. And to the Armenian futsal national team as well. They're going to be playing for the World Cup qualifiers.
Yep.
The women's national team actually has a new addition to the squad from Australia. So that's actually, by the way, that's one of the players Anna Tadevosian was telling us about. Really looking forward to how they're going to line up.
Yeah. Here's also some last minute news coming straight from the best source in Italian football, Fabrizio Romano, who says that apparently AS Roma. No. Apparently, AS Roma is actually offering an improved contract offer and are currently negotiating with Mkhitaryan's agent Mino Raiola to have him stay in the capital. So we'll see what happens there and how that develops. But of course, that's not going to affect the national team anymore. So there's that. Well, thank you everyone for listening. On behalf of Chadens and Armen, this has been Football Kentron. If you have not already, please go follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that jazz. Go to our website, footballkentron.com.blogspot.com, something, right, Chadens? What's the URL?
For our website.
Yeah.
Football Kentron. I'm not even 100% sure.
Yeah, I think it's wordpress.com. Anyway.
Yeah.
Share this episode. Spread the news. Spread the good word. And
share the clip advertising our players.
Yeah, please. They were everywhere. And we will be back in a couple of weeks' time as usual to provide further updates and news on behalf of the boys here. Thank you for listening and goodbye.